Oh snap! We gotta talk about how Isagi had Chigiri on all fours, how he slapped Nagi on his backside, and much more violations in today's video, which is sponsored by you guys. But more on that in a second. Being a show about ego and having the main roster being some sadistic pieces of some wholesome characters, you bet this show is bound to have some of the wildest violations in the history of sports anime. And this is where you guys come in, as I asked you to give me some of your favorite violation moments in Blue Lock. And boy, you did not disappoint, so let's not waste any time and dive right in. Now, whenever I hear the word violation in relation to Blue Lock, I think of this freaking main character taking a whole team with their prodigies on a ride. You see, after Isagi unlocked Metavision, he became a literal menace on the field. He single-handedly changed the flow of the game, but unfortunately it wasn't enough, as he needed another piece to better dominate the field. And that came in the form of egocentrism, probably one of the most underrated pieces he ever found. With this, he can understand what the players are thinking, and with them being already in his sight due to Metavision, they had no way of escaping him. No one was safe, not even Chris Prince, the world's second best, who actually was Isagi's first victim. After the poor guy developed a new shot to beat Noah, Isagi completely read him like an open book, and with the help of Gagamaru he was able to stop Prince's knuckle shot and completely devour him in what is now an iconic moment. But obviously the violation isn't done yet. Together with Noah and Corona, Isagi actually brought a mop into the game and was literally mopping the floor with Manshine. Nagi, check. Prince, check. And hey, look at this dude. Chigiri, swoop and check. Random defenders, check, check and check. And to add some spiciness to the violation, Isagi took some of his teammates to the mopping stage. And here I'd like to take this opportunity to make a distinction. You see, I asked you guys about violation moments, but after reading the comments, I noticed that this video could be split into two. This one will be about violations, while the second will be about humiliations. This way I can include all the suggestions, and I mean, it's good for views too, right? But anyways, how do we make this distinction? Well, here we can have a case study. What Isagi did to Yuki, that's a violation. However, what he did to Kaiser, that's a humiliation. So when a player destroys another and make them crumble, that's violation. However, when a player goes out of his way to add insult to injury, like Rin holding Isagi from his collar like a little puppy, that's humiliation. But with that out of the way, let's carry on. And since we are on the topic of a player sweeping a whole team, next we actually have 3 players who took matters to their hands and completely violated the opposing teams. And hey, all of this happened in a singular game. The players are the Itoshi brothers Sai and Rin, plus the monster Bachira Meguru in the U20 game. Now, given that Blue Lock is a football show, it isn't really shocking to have plenty of moments of players violating one another with their dribbling. However, these 3 instances really took this formula to the extreme, where it was downright ugly to see what these players were doing to their opponents. Speaking of ugly, that's one word to describe Berserker Rin and his total violation of the U20 defenders. Destruction is more fitting, however, as we see this menace uses Nero and Darai's weapons against them to violently destroy their playing style, and then he proceeds to manhandle Neo. You know, the muscular guy from the U20 team? Rin in a John Cena fashion takes him on a swing, and to add insult to injury, he carries on with his dribbles as if he did not flip a grown man upside down just now. As he was moving up the card, then Aiku was next on the chopping block, if it wasn't for Shido's intervention, where they barely stopped him after both giving their best just to touch the ball a little bit. The other Itoshi destroyer, however, was jumped by a whole team, yet they did not even come close to taking the ball from him. You see, where Rin takes his opponent's strong points and violently destroy them, Sai does the same, but not violently, rather very artistically and elegantly. Which, if you ask me, is more of a violation than Rin, because it's like spitting in the face of your opponents, by beautifully taking them to the violation realm. From Nagi, Isagi and Hiyori to poor Yuki and the team of Baro and Karasu. He had the Blue Lock 11 so deep on their knees to the point they only stopped him by targeting his passing options and not him specifically. And I'm not gonna lie, it was a total massacre. And hey, a beautiful one at that. Now, before we move to Bachira, I want to first talk about an insane violation that happened between the Itoshi brothers. Technically, this is a humiliation, but Sai was so effortless at it that it really fits as a humiliating violation. I'm talking about his interaction with his brother at the end of the U20 game. You know how Ren spent his whole existence worshipping Sai and wanting his approval, only for the latter to turn on him. And then he spent his days hustling, working hard and sharpening his weapons just for that fateful day where he gets to meet, face and even beat Sai. Well, he did meet him and faced him, and hell, even beat him after he reached a new level. But only for Sai to casually ignore all of that hard work and recognizes Isagi at the end of the game. This burned every bridge in Ren's head as his blood was boiling. The dude basically tapped into gear 2 at this point. And to make it more humiliating, it was Isagi of all people, the guy that he swore he will make him watch as he ascends to number 1 spot. But Sai simply said nope, yeah you good Ren, but Isagi is far better. Man, this was torture. I'm really surprised Ren did not pop a vein or go insane after this total violation. However, let's jump back to the game and what Bachira did to the U20 defenders. And here's the thing, both Ren and Sai violated their opponents in a calculated way. Bachira on the other hand was just winning it and he wrecked them in the process, which to me it's an even crispier violation. In a very Bachira-like fashion, he unorthodoxly threw dribbling moves left and right, and the poor defenders were being thrown by the lack of sense and rhythm he had. This was double bad for the analytical genius Aiku, as his poor eyes were incapable of grasping what this imp was doing. Bachira completely threw common sense outside the window, and violated them in the process. It's not even funny. What was funny, however, is the irony of Sendo's save. For the most amazing sequence, to be stopped by Sendo, who has been getting destroyed left, right and center, is just funny, man. But that's besides the point. Bachira still violated them, which was insane at the time because Aiku was the best defender at this point, and he hasn't lost in a straight up one-on-one yet. And even still, Bachira defeated the whole defense and dominated the goalkeeper, which made the violation the complete package. Now, on the topic of violating a whole defense, you know we gotta talk about the best U20 striker, Kaiser, whom I'd like to bring up 2 moments where he took 2 different teams on a ride with his ultimate combination of weapons. First, it was Manshine, where they had their players form a wall and completely block the shot course, which was a brilliant move definitely, and would have worked on any other striker. However, Kaiser is just built different, as he uses his predator eyes to identify a very narrow shot course, and with his Kaiser impact he completely violated the 5 players in front of him, where by the time they realized the shot, it was already over and the ball was already in the net, as the shot basically swooped between them and straight to the goal. However, his second violation was far more violent, as he basically forced a shot in an even harder situation. Let me reiterate, far harder, as Uber's defense is ages ahead of Manshine. And to make matters worse, Kaiser had far less space to work with. Still, he proved why he is a new Gen 11 striker. We see Sendo immediately tackling Kaiser, as he sensed the danger emanating. However, in a very royal fashion and through metavision, Kaiser lifts the ball in the air instead of shooting. There, Aryu gets physical, as he knows if Kaiser shoots, it's pretty much GG's. However, again, in a very royal fashion, the Emperor spun, as the ball was rising. There, Aiku's analytical eye saw the danger and went to block his course. But of course, the Predator Eyes times Kaiser Impact combo proved supreme again, and Kaiser took Uber's valiant efforts and completely violated them, one by one, as they sat there having been destroyed, with only one thing on their minds. God damn, son. Also, funny enough, he had Aiku looking like this, which always adds to the violation. And hey, to take it a step further, he performed a superhero landing after that, just to rub the violation more in their faces. However, for our next violation, we gotta talk about how Kaiser was brought to his knees, as whatever he did to the Uber's defense isn't even close to what Lorenzo did to him. He literally pocketed him all game on defense, to the point the only times where Kaiser was able to escape him was when Lorenzo responded to another dangerous player, usually Isagi. But probably the reason this violation is so gruesome is the fact that it is one-on-one, where all the violence Lorenzo unleashed was focused on poor Kaiser. He beat him on and off the ball, he rendered his metavision useless, and even straight up deprived him from receiving the ball at times, caging him like a little bird. And here's the thing, this was such a one-sided slaughter, it cemented Lorenzo's place, as on offense he still had Kaiser's number, violating him while still playing the role of the best midfielder, and hell, even beating his defensive metavision plays to complete the one-sided violation. Well, he beat him and Isagi, that is. Something the next 2 players on our list can boast about. I'm talking about Nagi and Baro and that time they had their ways with Isagi and Kaiser. You see, after acquiring Metavision, Isagi joined Kaiser in positioning themselves perfectly behind the defensive line, essentially becoming reinforcements to Bastard's defense. This proved rather tricky to deal with for the strikers and was getting their blood boiling, until these two snapped. First, let's talk about Baro, as I feel his violation was more gentle than Nagi's. So what he did was align the two meta buddies and then trick them into thinking he is doing his usual shot, and then took both on a ride as he violated their whole play with a double netmax shot that left them speechless while they had their legs open like a common hentai girl. All that is left is for our favorite hentai boy to join the movie. In any case, what Baro did here doesn't compare to when Nagi took these two idiots on the ride of their lives. He literally used the killer move on them over and over until they ran out of gas. First was Isagi, whom he targeted. Bam. Oh, Kaiser, you came. Bam again. Isagi again. Bam. Wait, you done? Ha, get wrecked, nerd. He literally had Isagi's image be shattered to pieces, and stomped all over the blue roses of Kaiser, and forced the goal with finesse. The common thing about these two violations is obviously Kaiser and Isagi pushing Baro and Nagi into new heights. However, these two being polar opposites in personality meant that they were at each other's throats many times, which means they each violated one another on many occasions. We got a taste of this in their face-off in the second selection, where Baro violated Nagi with brute force and technicality, while Nagi was throwing shade with his insane plays, leaving him in an awe. However, this violation matchup didn't start here, as in the Nagi spin-off manga we learned that these two were at each other's throats pretty much since the beginning of the program. And while Baro's violation wasn't really strong as he basically was against an unmotivated Nagi, it was the opposite that really went hard. Nagi went straight for Baro, challenging him in his strongest point, in what I can only call a violation as Baro was left in shook on the ground. The thing is, Nagi did this because of a certain and even more gruesome violation that the king bestowed upon Ryo. As we all know, before losing to Isagi and Team Z, Ryo used to be a very cocky player, thinking him, Nagi and Zantetsu cannot be beaten. And while Team X was very weak, Ryo really messed up when he underestimated Baro by thinking this was an easy win. Yet the king took him and Zantetsu on a ride, completely destroying their coordination with brute force, nullifying their double press. Poor Zantetsu was swung as if he was hit by a truck. However, what was more impressive is when Ryo did not let go and tried to stop Baro. He literally sent him flying, and I'm not talking figuratively here. Ryo was very literally thrown as Baro delivered his shot, and we see Bro hanging for dear life as he got violated, with a very scared look on his face. I honestly felt bad for our spoiled boy, as he first-handedly experienced the real world. And what's funnier, it looked like in a jungle fashion Baro was gonna trample all over Ryo, had it not been for Nagi, which makes this violation one of the more physical and gruesome ones. Next, I want to cover another violation from the Nagi spin-off novel, which is when Hiragi took Nagi's signature weapon and violated him in that regard by trapping the ball and surpassing him over and over. And it's funny because Nagi was confused as hell. I bet he was thinking, so this is what I've been doing to people. Damn it! Eventually Nagi violated Hiragi back with the help of Chigiri and Baro, which makes it another double violation for Nagi. And also on a smaller note, the way Hiragi had his way with Nagi reminded me of Aryo's violation to Isagi in the second selection. The guy basically thought he got the ball and all he needs is to retain and then pass it. Bam! Aryo kicks it with his insane reach, and Isagi was like, huh? How the hell is that even possible? You breaking the laws of physics here, Mr. Luffy? Now, these two are minor violations, and I wanted to include them right before we move on to the violation that happened outside the field. Because most of these sadistic characters are like that on and off the pitch, and their egos engulf all their lives. Something Kira found out quickly the moment he stepped in Blue Lock. Isagi was super nice. Isagi was super friendly, and he was a shy guy. Well, until he wasn't. And there him and Bachira violated Kira so bad he was lost for words. Now, what I love about this violation is the fact that it's not like an insane play that destroyed Kira, or even your usual football shenanigans. Instead, Kira was emotionally violated. You thought Japanese high schoolers are some quite well-raised people? Psych! Oh wait, double psych. Not for nothing, but this was such a beautiful violation. Isagi got some revenge after Kira downplayed him earlier, but more importantly, it set the expectations for this show. It's not your average power of friendship bullshit of a sports manga. This right here is art, this is drama, and this is violence, as we see the main character violating the supposed second main character. If you think about it, it's like Yuji beating up Megumi so bad as soon as he joined the school, and Gojo kicked him because he lost to Yuji. This was wild, and it was violent, but in an amazing manner. But we really can't talk about violence without speaking of a certain character, Shido Ryusei, and what he did to so many characters. However, I'd like to single out two instances. First, at the end of the third selection, Shido was fed up with Rin using his perfect positioning to steal the spotlight, and we literally see him holding Rin by his face. This guy is grabbing him by his face to stop him from reaching the ball. Just look at this. However, Rin still was able to shoot and score. This was the breaking point for Shido, as we see him violate Rin physically. He quite literally beats the living shit out of him, breaking his nose in the process. Rin was so shook by this, as his nose was bleeding badly. Yet Shido wasn't done. We see him leap into the air preparing to violently open Rin's skull with an axe kick, before getting electrocuted by Ego at the last moment, saving Rin's poor head in the nick of time, and putting an end to this violence that got Rin squirting red. Also, I find Rin's face here super funny, and to add insult to injury, Shido was proud of breaking his face and was very ecstatic. Now, before we talk about his second violation, we know that Shido gets high from physically violating people. His friend in crime, however, gets it from verbally abusing players. I'm obviously talking about Sai. When he and Shido had their way with poor little Sendo, first Sai came in hot with the insults, calling him shit and all the other good stuff. I gotta tell you, Sai woke up and chose violence today. He straight up went for the U20 team's ace, and there, when Sendo tried to speak up and defend himself, Shido snuck from behind and slammed his face into the table. I don't know what it is with the antenna guy and breaking faces. Sai was breaking spirits and Shido was carving faces, the perfect violation duo. If you just exist next to them and you are not a great player, just know that you are set up for a world of abuse and violation. Dealing with these two is like dating two people at the same time, and each is abusive in his own way. I just feel sorry for both Rin and Sendo, who are at the receiving end of both violations. But, despite the toxicity, there is a guy who stood between both of these and he still handled them very well. I'm talking about Oliver motherfrickin' Aiku, who actually was the first guy we see him violate Shido physically, and was on an equal term in violating Sai emotionally. So, when Shido was pummeling poor Sendo, suddenly a hand arises from the dark, stopping his kick. By the time Shido realized what's going on, he found himself being manhandled in a long time coming physical violation, leaving him in a worm-like position as we get introduced to the U20 defenders. Sai wasn't impressed, however soon he got introduced to the cheeky captain who was able to bargain with him and be on an equal footing of toxicity, which was great to see and works as the perfect closing scene to our video. I hope you guys enjoyed, and until next time, thank you for watching.